to Hamid, I think you actually brought it up at our session, if I may share, in terms of the ability to have access to yourself fully. So when necessary, you can pick up the sword and go, but that's not necessary to cut
Okay,
the
so I actually
gingerbread,
wanted to share this with you. So you don't know about this, all of this, Elizabeth. So I'll tell you. Takes a minute. Many years ago, when I had my therapist, actually it was 2001, I think, right around 9/11. They did this thing. I'm Canadian. At that time, I wasn't American. I'm Canadian Persian. So they did this thing in 2001 that was right around the time that I had done my inner child therapy work. And then they did this thing that they called this, they looked for a special registration from Iranian people that they needed to go to INS, back time now ICE, to show that whatever. So it was a horrible, scary situation because I was Canadian, but was also Persian. I didn't know if I have to do this thing. I also had my green card interview the next month. So I was terrified. And I have this vision of myself. I've always done this inside my vision, which is I hold myself in front of the wind with my arms outstretched, and wind would come through me, and that would be surrender. But when I did that, I saw myself in my vision get bullet ridden, that bullets hit me. And I talked to my therapist, and she told me, well, what if you do the neo thing, which is, the bullets come to you and you kind of just bend and the bullets don't hit you. And then the night before, so guys, I had to go a month later because my thing, the special registration, was going to happen a month before that I had my interview for my green card, month later. So I was a month late. And I sat in my car. I was going to my Aikido. I had a conversation with Spirit, and a Spirit told me that it's your divine right to be here. Because it's your divine right to be here. And then I saw a golden sword, and I saw myself standing in an Aikido formation, standing with my hands open, with my sword on my lap. And I stood there, and then when I saw these bullets coming, I started cutting the bullets with my sword so they would never hit me. And I would go back to my situation. So what I learned there is that there are three ways you can deal with, aggression. One is that you can run away. Two is fight back. And three is stand there and use divine right. So I invented this term, I call it active surrender. And
I like that.
Thank you. Truth be told, I went to INS the next day, and it was a walk in the park. I heard that people had gone to San Francisco the same day that I was supposed to go, and they ran out of handcuffs. But I went there a month later. They treated me like royalty because that was my relationship to Spirit. Now, this is what I will lived with till my session with Elizabeth a week ago or 3 days ago or something, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Xenia, in my session, I didn't even bother doing my Aikido thing, the warrior thing with my sword. I was just playing violin. There's an expression, a beautiful expression in English. They call it troubadour. I was a troubadour. I was playing my violin, and I saw that when I was playing my violin, these bullets that were coming at me, they would turn into flowers and fall down. And where my violin song was going, everywhere it was going, it was bringing life. So do you see how many levels of this game there are? That the more
you have options.
trust you have, the more softness you have, your power becomes insane. I mean, I thought my active surrender was something, but this thing with the, creating beauty and then turning bullets into flowers, like that came with a vision that I worked with Elizabeth. And
that is amazing. And I think, well, you will read that in the questions that I answered for your request.
yeah,
One of the things that I mentioned there was that I feel like the purpose of the work is to learn to love yourself and others, and to find your relationship with God.
yeah,
Period.
yeah.
Like, this is so far at my level of consciousness, this is what I feel like we're here to do.
Yeah.
And I am in my infancy stage of my true blue relationship with God and the Spirit. And the very first one was basically being like, all right, I've tried to find my purpose my entire life, and I'm steering because I'm, the controller. My betrayal wounding is manifesting in control. If I don't control, I just, I have to control. So, and I'm like, surrender. What the hell is surrender? How am I going to do this? And why have I still not found it? Like, I'm almost 40. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I've been trying, I've been breaking my face, trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. Like, where is it? Like, what's going on? And lo and behold, through one of the most traumatic experiences of my love life, let's call a spade, I'm finding the blind spots that I've been living with. And I realize how many people have the same issues, and I'm like, bam.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, yeah, it definitely took many, many years to get there. But at the same, because, sometimes you're like, well, somebody wanted to be a chef ever since they were 8, and, there is their life design. So, but
good for them. Rub it in.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and sometimes you're like, well, the roads are windy, and now I'm looking back on my life, and I'm thinking, well, I never wanted an easy path. I'm the person who wants to wander and to figure it out, and this is why I'm thinking that, like, there were definitely a lot of turns in the road, but I can only see the 2020 in the back, in hindsight of why my road was this way, not that way. So, but as I said, like, understanding how to build that relationship with the Spirit, where you are practicing this active surrender. That's a beautiful way to describe it, like, amazing. Because, like, how it's, to me, it can never be a passive thing. Just like yourself, I have overcome obstacles in my life, and Elizabeth too. Like, we have overcome things. So for us to be in this space where we're like, no, not gonna you know what I mean? Like, this
is a big leap from one to the other.
Completely not gonna happen. How do we, actively? Seriously, like, that's exactly precisely what that is. Like, how do for me, I'm actively surrendering to my purpose by, I have learned this, I'm putting it out. I have learned that this is how I'm actively surrendering to my life purpose. This is like, I am a doer. I that's kind of what my whole energy is all about. So exactly the same thing. How do you get somebody who is this person who is, like, I'm supposed to do stuff? How do you drop them to that level of consciousness where they understand how to surrender in the way that makes sense to them? And that's the part even I am still working on.
It's not, it's the funny thing is that it's not as complicated, because it comes with the simple awareness to forgive the part of you that wants to control, right?
So,
wow. you have a very
I struggle with that, let me
right.
tell you,
You
because
have a very
I've been, you know, in this constant push and
right.
pull.
You have a very
Yeah.
intense relationship with the Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Your little girl, your little
I've
bride,
been
your
told
little
my Wonder Woman is
right,
no good because she's scary and
right,
she's intimidating, which is a
right,
bad thing.
right. And so
Yeah.
what happens, and you know, I may have talked to Elizabeth, this is the coaching work that I do. So what happens with us is that when we hold a certain part of ourselves at a certain regard, like scary or dangerous or unlovable or frightening or unapproachable, or what happens is that this part of us is hungry for attention, hungry for love, hungry for acceptance.
And contribution
And
too.
yes, so
The
because
self-worth coming from that.
they are hungry for acceptance, they are doing their thing and you're using them, and they are kind of, you know, in collaboration with you. But there are times that they would come and act in certain ways that is quite destructive. And they do it because they have very little airtime. So when you lose, or when that person loses their ability to always be conscious and handling things and controlling things, the controller comes and there are some negative things that they do, and they do it in 5 minutes, and they burn the whole house down, and they come back with you matches in your hands, because you did not make peace with her. You did not make peace with her strength. You didn't fall in love with her. You didn't appreciate her. You didn't respect her. You didn't accept her. You just used her. And one time when you're,
I've been trained
yeah,
by, you know, even my own mother saying like, you
yeah,
are too combative, this is not attractive to men,
right,
Xenia, stop
right,
being you, learn
yes,
to be a different person.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, constantly being told that, you know, even, you know, through, you know, some other things, that Xenia, you are aggressive, and you know, I have some fire in me, and
yes.
yes, I can get really angry, legit,
Mhm.
but you know, like that whole
Yeah.
thing is, yeah, it's,
So for you to actually cry, to actually let yourself freak out, let yourself lose control,
yeah.
those are the things that are essential for your evolution to your next level. Because what happens is that you have such a strong control over the reins of your life that as much as you're amazing in what you're doing, you're still controlling 79% of everything. It's better than it was before. I just had a number,
Sure.
but still controlling everything. And I want to see you in a world that when you can put your hands down and say, the horses know where to go. I don't need to control anything.
Mm-hmm.
But to get there, you need to forgive and love the part who reins the horses. While you use her, you don't accept her. But if you accept her, you appreciate her with what she does,
Mm-hmm.
and thank her profusely for everything she's done in your life, then she would release.
Wow.
I mean, can I ask you just to circle back one topic? Would you
Oh,
be comfortable sharing what the belief was that triggered that new vision that took you to the next level, right? Instead of the sword, to have the violin. You remember?
I don't. What was it?
The world is a friendly place.
mm,
Because when you are, you know, always triggered and you are right, that you're reacting, you feel unsafe. It's you versus them.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're talking about the relationship with God. The biggest revelation has been that God is not out there, that it's through here, and we are God, not a piece of God, not
No, we are God.
we are God, like
Yeah.
each other and everything in between, right? The air, the table, you, me, the dog, the
Everything.
planets, and so
We
on.
are God.
And when you actually embody that and you realize it, and this is something that's like a mind twister, because like, but wait, how can God be here and there and like, you know, everywhere? Because it's oneness, right? And we are representations, individual representations of that. You treat yourself and others very differently, and things happen differently, and your relationship with manifestation happens differently.